Chadd Facey was a 19-year-old black male who was selling a watch. The watch was fake. The purchaser tackled Chadd with sufficient force to cause injuries that would turn out to be fatal. That purchaser and his friend were both off-duty police officers.
Yes.
What was he ultimately sentenced to?
He was sentenced to 1 year probation, 3 years, no firearms. The picture's clear. It's right there in front of you.
This is Richard Miller from Keep Six. You created an organization that is geared towards helping young men escape gang life, street life, prison life.
The community itself feels that there isn't any justice when it comes to black people. How do you expect the community to have any trust when it's clearly precedents have been set? Trust can never be built. We have to start to let these individuals account for their actions and their behavior. This is a situation that's larger than me, and it's not just about my voice alone. It's about an overall picture of the community. And these are the things I'd like to have the opportunity to sit at the table and discuss and bring up.
Welcome back to another episode of Who Judges the Judge, the podcast meant to make you question the way you judge the world around you. Today's guest has been a guest before. This is Richard Miller from Keep Six. We have a very special episode where we are going to focus on a particular court case and the outreach that it has had, the outrage that it has had. I'm super excited to be speaking to you today, Richard. So thank you for making the time. If anyone has not watched the last episode that featured your life story, they should. But in a nutshell, you spent the better part of 30 years cycling through the justice system as an offender, as you were called, in and out of penitentiaries, always convicted of serious violent offenses, subject to a long-term supervision order, which, for anyone who isn't aware, is sort of a step below a dangerous offender.
Right.
You were told that if you didn't make changes, you would never see the light of day. And your last prison stint was your last prison stint because you decided to do something completely different with your life.
That's right.
And not only for you, but for others. And that was really the tipping point because you created an organization called Keep Six that is geared towards helping young men escape gang life, escape street life, escape prison life, and focus on doing good for themselves through hard work, really hard work, specifically the construction industry.
Yeah, it was more or less came to a point where even the fact of the individual who was just trapped in the system, right?
Right.
I found that education was important of how to navigate the system itself. So
Yes.
that was my whole focus.
Okay. And so give us an overview about Keep Six. What does Keep Six do? How did it start? What is the organization for someone who's listening and not aware?
So Keep Six is a nonprofit organization that caters to the marginalized community and individuals impacted by the justice system. Keep Six built a program called Gangs for Tuition, which is a program that focuses on individuals not going down that path. So support them into the trades, also mental health, and even housing. There's 3 key factors when it comes to individuals getting caught in the system. It's usually if they have support in the mental health, employment, and houses, they pretty much, set free once they're willing to go jump ship and go down the right path, right?
And so currently, how many young men are in your program?
As of today, we have about 12, 14 individuals in the program right now.
Okay. When did you start this program?
The program was built officially launched around 4 years ago.
And in those 4 years, how many men have you helped?
Oh, gosh.
Roughly.
Last year, I know we did 174.
Okay. What's your success rate?
Zero recidivism rate. We had 2
Zero
individuals.
recidivism.
Yeah.
Wow. So we have a 100% success rate.
Right. We had 2 individuals last year who was violated.
Yes.
And that violation was canceled.
Wow. So this is like a huge topic in society right now, and it's something that I'm often asked about. What is it that starts a young man's entrance into gang life or street life?
A lot of times it is individuals go down that path or that rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yes.
Not having guidance. They feel that they don't have the support. So you'll have somebody who will come and put a bug in your ear that you can become a millionaire overnight. And, they kind of go down that path, right? And they kind of not having that support. So they kind of just build that family network.
You've got the support of people you never expected.
That's an understatement.
You have politicians that are
Yeah.
supporting what you're doing. You have police that are
Yeah.
supporting what you're doing. You have community groups that are supporting what you're doing. Full disclosure for anyone listening, you came to me when you were first starting up.
Yeah.
And we're like,
I was fresh.
Can you help? and we were throwing these like panels, these speaking panels in community centers and libraries and basically anywhere that anyone would listen
to me,
with a view to trying to educate young men and parents about how the justice system is a trap and how people are getting stuck in the justice system and what it takes for them to exit. And you've grown from these little community centers into something really phenomenal. Like, you are being contacted by members of parliament. You're being contacted by crown attorneys. You're being contacted by the police for your input. What does that feel like?
It's somewhat it's shocking.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't believe it. Some people say, "Man, what did you expect?" Besides that, you're really devoted to this, right? So it's kind of shocking at times, but it's very, very important to be at the table and be able to have a voice.
Yes.
I find now within government and everything else, I find everybody wants to hear from individuals with lived life experience, and I find that they're not really focusing on what the professors are saying, but more about lived life experience.
Okay.
And it's something that's very big now, even within the justice system itself.
And to that end, you're here today to talk about a young man named Chadd Facey.
Yes.
And a man who was convicted of his assault, ultimately.
Yes. So initially, it wasn't an assault. It was actually a manslaughter.
Yes.
And the manslaughter went down to assault.
Yes.
So if anyone doesn't know about the criminal justice system, there's different levels of assault. The level of assault that he was convicted of was actually just a common assault. So
assault simpliciter.
Yeah.
So there may be people listening, and I expect there's a lot of people listening who don't know anything about this case. They've never heard the name Chadd Facey before. So for those people, let's take it back to the very, very beginning. Tell us about your understanding of the case, because you have a very, different perspective.
Right. So I was contacted by the Attorney General office.
Okay.
And the reason for them to contact me through the organization was regarding a community impact report.
Okay.
So individual who don't understand what a community impact report, usually it's a report or an assessment that's done regarding a case or a matter that's in front of the court that the judge can have a perspective of how the community feels about that particular situation. So that is how I fell into this task.
Okay. And Keep 6 is actually named in the sentencing decision. So I'm sure you have a copy of the reasons for sentence, but Keep 6 organization is named in the sentencing decision as being one of the two organizations to provide the community impact. Were you involved with the case before the sentencing?
No, I was not involved in the case before.
How did it cross your plate? When you got the call from the Attorney General, or were you aware that this case was winding its way through the system from the start?
Well, I knew about the case overall through the media.
Okay.
But I was never involved until I was contacted by the Attorney General office.
And so for anyone listening who isn't aware, Chadd Facey was a 19-year-old Black male who was selling a watch on Facebook Marketplace. And he was contacted by a potential purchaser who arranged to buy the watch for $400. He met. The purchaser brought a friend. They made the exchange, And as the purchaser was walking away with his friend, he realized that the watch was fake. And Chadd gave chase. He started running away. The chase lasted just over 5 minutes, was about 5.5 minutes long. The purchaser's friend got into his car and basically boxed in Chadd. And the purchaser caught up to him. By the time the purchaser caught up to him, the friend had already taken the $400 back that Chadd had been provided. The purchaser may or may not have seen that the $400 was retrieved. That was sort of one of the issues. But nonetheless, tackled Chadd with sufficient force to cause injuries that would turn out to be fatal.
Yes.
That purchaser and his friend were both off-duty police officers.
That is correct.
Which certainly added to the circumstances in this case in a very significant way for the community, especially. He was charged with manslaughter. The case wound its way through the system up to the Superior Court on the manslaughter charge, and the defense presented evidence that contradicted the autopsy report. And there was some dispute as to whether or not the tackle by this off-duty police officer was what caused the death of Chadd Facey, who I understand was an otherwise very healthy 19-year-old male with no sort of underlying issues that would have caused his death. And I remember the outrage. I remember hearing from people when that charge was dropped from manslaughter down to assault causing bodily harm, not even an aggravated assault, which is, if anyone's listening, there's sort of 3 levels of assault in the Canadian justice system: assault simpliciter, assault causing bodily harm, and aggravated assault being the most serious. He went to trial on the assault caused bodily harm and was ultimately only convicted of a simple assault. Were you aware of the case before the sentencing? Like, as it was winding its way through the system, was this a case on your radar?
It was somewhat on my radar.
Okay.
A little bit, but I wasn't in depth with it until I was actually involved in it.
Okay.
So I kind of more or less, be honest with you, I was just watching what was taking place through the media,
Right.
what I was reading and so forth, right?
How did you feel? As someone
Of
who's...
which part?
all of it. How did you feel throughout? How did you feel? I mean, I remember when Chadd's death was first announced in the media and the circumstances surrounding it. And, I was horrified, and I have a very different view. How did you feel as a community advocate, as a Black man who cycled through the system, as someone who was subjected to so much intolerance and difficulties, both with the police and through the correctional system?
It's something, I'll use this one word, it was traumatic. I actually felt at the time when it was first started going, I felt there's going to be justice. I kind of had it in my mind. The judges, when they're sentencing, they always use the word, I'm going to make an example. That's a famous saying if anybody ever go to the courthouse. So I just felt this was the time to make an example, to make changes, right?
And what would you have liked to have seen? What do you think would have been, what result would have made an example from your perspective?
From my perspective, what would have made an example would a federal sentence, I say a 10-year federal sentence, even convicted on manslaughter. That's what I figured would have made sense. And also, not being a police officer anymore. I think right now, everyone is still in a state of shock. And I myself, even from the report that we wrote as a community impact and the judges.
And what did you say? What did you say in that report? What was the impact of this, number one, of this horrific incident, this absolute tragedy? Sure, he shouldn't have been selling a fake Apple Watch, but to then die as a result of a tackle by a trained police officer?
Well, it was not just about being tackled by a trained police officer, but it's just the fact that no one knew that it was a police officer.
Right. Well, because they left.
They
They
left.
tackled him. He couldn't get up. He was injured.
Right.
His friends came and saved him. This cop and his buddy
They left.
abandoned him,
Right.
didn't call 911,
No.
did not do anything to get this boy help. They take off. His friends come and have to bring him to the hospital.
That's right. But it wasn't until Peel Police started an investigation
Right.
that led to find out it was the Toronto police.
Yes.
So with all this, in the mix, I just felt that there should have been some accountability. In the impact statement, I addressed about the trauma.
Okay.
I addressed about what has happened in our community when it comes to killings on the hands of police, and not just for community, but worldwide. I have also addressed other cases and what has taken place in Canada. I've addressed the fact of the struggles that the family will be going through with the sentencing and so forth, right? And how important it was for accountability. Because we have to start to look at the fact that no matter what happens, and you hear in the media and what takes place, there's still never any accountability.
What was he ultimately sentenced to?
He was sentenced to 1 year probation and 3 years no firearms. So
And that was a contentious part in the sentencing as well. So after reading the decision, the defense had asked for the judge to exercise her discretion and not place a firearm prohibition on him in order for him to maintain his position with Toronto police. And the judge refused. The judge still gave the weapons prohibition, which prevents him from having any possession of a firearm. Does that do anything to quell the concerns about him being a police officer
No.
from your perspective?
No, I don't. Because I strongly feel that once he has finished that 12 months probation and that 3-year ban, he'll be able to get, it could be a desk
Yes.
job. He still holds his job at the.
He's still unpaid.
Yeah, he's still on pay.
Because he did not get a jail sentence, because he avoided a custodial sentence, it means that he is still being paid as a police officer on the public dime.
Yeah. This goes to show.
Yes.
So just imagine, I mean, just anyone can just stop and look within a family setting and something like this takes place within your family, how just the trauma alone. So how, within our community or the community itself, it's very clear that Black lives don't matter. We don't care about what happened to our youth. It's great to hear how politicians and everybody can, sit at a table and speak about changes and so forth. But you'll continue to carry on the same pattern of behavior from 200 years or 300 years.
What message does that send to some of the young men that you work with? Because I hear it all the time. Why are these kids still carrying guns? Why are they fighting? Why do they sell drugs? Why are they engaging in this behavior time and time again? What message does a case like this send to that same community?
Well, it's sending a message that it doesn't matter. If they kill us, we got to kill them before they kill us.
Wow.
That's the message you're saying. Because there's not going to be any justice. I would like for someone to really stop and look at even an issue that has taken place. Now, you yourself, you do a lot of murder cases, but I can remember a case of just defending yourself and shooting someone. At the end of the day, do you really think that you're going to get 12 months probation and 3-year weapon ban?
No.
So again, the system itself is built on a 2-tier. There's a sentencing regime or justice for a specific group of people. And then there's another sentencing, regime or justice for the other, right?
What do you do with the collective outrage? Because this case at each turn sparked significant outrage. When it first happened, the fact that this, off-duty cop, the way that it was couched, killed this kid, tackled him, caused his death. Now, there's an autopsy report that says otherwise. Well, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or if the community takes that into effect at all or any consideration. The fact that this happened was one outrage. When the manslaughter charge got dropped, there was another collective outrage. And then the conviction for assault, not even assault causing bodily harm, a huge outrage and another, pain point. And then finally this sentence that does justice for no one.
The community will not get over it for a long time. And again, when we stop today now and we look, you'll hear even the police force now, they're on clearly saying that we need to work with her community and try to build that trust
Right.
in our community, right? I had the opportunity to be at a conference last year, and the first thing was that exact note from the chief himself, right? And the question I have to ask, how do you expect the community to have any trust when it's clearly precedents have been set that there'll never be, that trust can never be built by a situation like this?
And you're someone that's trying to build that trust. Like, you have spent many, many years sort of as this conduit trying to build relations between the police and the community. To the extent that you've asked me to participate in some of the events, and I'm like, no, I can't situate myself that closely with Peel Police.
Right.
I don't want that connection for me because I think it builds distrust between me and my clients. And so I've separated myself in some regards because I don't want to be seen as supporting an organization that I know is causing so much harm to the community that I serve.
Right.
How does that feel to you as someone who's worked so hard to try to build that bridge, who's asked to participate in this case the way that you were, and then to see the result that we see?
It's very, very difficult. It is. And I have to say this. My years have built in a relationship in the sense of the program.
Yes.
And I'm very fortunate to be in that position because I get the opportunity to be at the table. And I can, out of fairness, I can say that my voice is being heard.
Yes.
Right.
Well, the Crowns came to you specifically to say, hey, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
So does that deepen the sense of betrayal? Does that deepen the sort of strike to the trust that you're trying to build?
Within the community, yes. Yeah. Because now it's a situation where the community says, why are you bothering to this? We do not bring these people around us. We don't care about whatever it is that they're supporting us. We don't want it, right? Because it is not real. That is where we stand right now. My biggest piece right now is that where do we go from here? That's the thing I have to look at, because when you are dealing with such a traumatic impact of something of this great, significant, in people's life, and you have a body of people who are the same individual that you're trying to say, well, can we all work together to make a better place? How do we go forward?
How do you? What's next? How can you, what do you plan on doing?
At right now, I'll say this: I am still in shock from it all. One of the thing really need to do is sit down and have the conversation with a body of individuals of how do you feel this is justified. We have to look at even the family itself, for them to heal. How will they ever heal? Right? They've lost, a family member.
Yes.
I know the judge has her own conclusion and stuff like that, and I respect it. But again, I have to ask the question. I would really like to hear it from the judge. Do you look at all the factors in depth, really? I really would like to know that.
Right.
I cannot understand where the impacts, statement that they asked for, and it was something that covered every point. And she did bring it up in the sentencing.
Yes.
Well, did you take the time to overlook at that whole big picture? The family that lost their son. This individual, he still has his job. He's not seen a day in a federal institution or a provincial institution, so to speak. He has a probation order to fulfill. That's it.
To what extent and we'll never know, but to what extent do you feel like race played a role in this case?
Very big. No, I don't second guess it.
Okay. In what sense?
In the sentencing he received of
Yes.
how the case was handled, it's the picture's clear. I mean, if you're not a painter, if you don't know good art, well, you can know lousy art. It's right there in front of you.
I think it's important for people who are listening because obviously I have people who are very supportive and very involved in the community already.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have listeners who have no idea and they listen to learn, which is amazing. And part of the reason that I do this podcast is so that we share the views and we share, the thoughts and feelings of people that other people wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Right.
And so I can guess what your answers would be, but it's great for some people to hear what impact this has and how the Black community sees race as being a part of this case, because it did not play a role in the actual, in the decisions, in the sentencing. It's not really mentioned. It's not really touched on. And I think that it has so much greater an impact than is being discussed. And it's part of why, I wanted to get you back on the podcast. One,
Right.
because you reached out to me when the sentencing ruling came out and we're
Right.
just completely enraged and looking for a vehicle to discuss. And I think it's such an important discussion to have and to have publicly. But for people who are listening and may not know, someone, a white accountant living in Rosedale that has absolutely no understanding or appreciation of what is happening within the community. Talk to us. Talk to that listener.
The community itself deals with a lot of racism. We can't say that it's gone. It's very upfront now and today. And this is a perfect case that shows it overall. There's no question about it. Black youth have their challenges with the law enforcement. And again, we have to have law enforcement to keep things in order. There's no question about it. And I will say this bluntly. There are good officers out there and there's corrupt and dirty officers out there. There's no question about it. And it's just like anything in life, there's good and bad. The question that we have to look at is how can we weed out all of that and address and make these situations and accountability start taking place? Because at no time is there any accountability. And that's one of the key factors has to take place. We have to start to let these individuals account for their actions and their behavior. The same way how a regular civilian, will be treated and be sentenced through a matter is the same thing that I feel that should be taking place. Right. And these are the things I'd like to have the opportunity to sit at the table and discuss and bring up.
Because if Chadd was a white kid selling a fake Apple Watch
Mm-hmm.
and the purchaser was not a police officer and was a Black kid that tackled the white kid, and 24 hours later,
He's dead.
You think it would be a different case?
A very, very
different set of facts?
case, yeah. I can guarantee you he would be on a second-degree murder, and he'd be looking at about 15 to life.
Yeah.
Yeah. On a good day, maybe 12 to life. But we'd definitely be doing a life sentence. There's no question about it. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, overall, like, we have to, there's two sets of rules when it comes to sentencing and what goes on in, with a particular body of people and compared to what goes on with bodies of individuals in the community.
Did you have that perspective while you were cycling through the system?
Oh, yeah.
So you could see the disparities in sentencing and in treatment in the justice system generally between the races.
Definitely.
Like, as you were an offender.
100%. There's no question. I experienced one time, just to, like, you just brought it up. I had a parole officer, federal parole officer.
Okay.
And that parole officer got together because when files are transferred, when you're transferring parole, you all have a meeting.
Okay.
And that parole officer went into the other parole officer and said, we have to work together. Because with me in the system at the time,
right,
they felt I didn't fit the criteria.
Okay.
So,
how so?
Well, I was always the person that asked a lot of questions.
Okay.
But I always grieve everything. right? My question was that who told you that is right? That was my argument. You can't tell me to do this or I have to do this. Who said so? Who told you that? But no one could answer me.
Right.
So I knew the commissioner directive, and I learned from one of my lawyer that you need to study this. This is going to be your next Bible. This is your Bible. So I studied it, and I challenged everything. What was in their policy, I challenged it. So what happens is within the system, they do not like for you to question anything that they say. And once you start doing that, then you are labeled as, a problem child. Right? You start getting moved around, you start getting hassled. So every time I got hassled, I would always write a grievance. I wrote grievance against parole officers, and I wasn't afraid. It got to the point that even one time I got suspended because of, they tried to. And just imagine you getting suspended and you don't even have a charge.
Right.
That's how the system works.
And so how did you see that playing out in terms of a racial divide?
It played out in the sense that doesn't happen to a white counterpart.
And is that something that plays into recidivism?
Yes, it does.
Okay. How?
It plays into it in the sense of individual will just give up. They get tired and they feel like they can't win. So they will just go out and just do something again. And then they fall back into that trap. Because you have to understand that, or everyone needs to understand that everyone runs off emotions. Majority of the individual that's going through this situation is the emotions. You don't process things in your mind, just act. So that's the reason why a lot of guys, and even myself, my biggest problem wasn't I was a bad person or nothing. It's just I did not know how to control my emotions. I did not know how to address things. And I felt that if you talk to me or look at me the wrong way, I know I'm going to give you a straight right. Right? And what does a straight right get you? You know what I mean? A case.
Right.
Right? So that's what's happening. So until you learn to deal with a lot of things in depth and program your mind, then you end up in that cycle. And that's what's happening. Like right now with all this, it's a big outrage within the community. The youth, the families.
And are you seeing that? Are you hearing that from other community members?
Yes.
How does this case vibrate throughout the entire community?
The community itself feels that there isn't any justice when it comes to Black people.
And this is just another example. And here we are, 5 or so years post Black Lives Matter, where all these white people were posting black squares and thinking that was going to change the world instead of getting in there and actually doing something meaningful.
Yeah.
And here we are with the opportunity to do something meaningful.
And nothing happens.
Right.
The system is built, and I continue to say this over and over, the system is working exactly the way the system is built. People got to stop thinking, oh, the system is broken. It isn't broken. The system is working exactly the way it's built to work. Suppress. That's how it's built. I've seen it, and I continue to see it. There's a lot of individuals, and don't get me wrong, my hat goes off for them. I give them their flowers. That's working hard to try to make that change. But I will guarantee you, you and I probably be gone, and that change we won't see it happen, right? I don't know what's going to happen later on. We have a lot of trauma right now to address regarding this matter.
How do we address it? How do we move? How does the community move forward? Because at the end of the day, I see firsthand what happens when trauma doesn't get addressed, right? Because I represent so many young men, the majority racialized, that come to my office charged with firearm charges, charged with serious violence, charged with drug trafficking. And so the system perpetuates that cycle, right? Because then they go to jail and they come out and they continue to be engaged in the same behaviors, and they go back to jail. I say it all the time. I have clients that are serving life sentences in installments.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking because it's not my job to interrupt that cycle. I try to beat the case and win them their freedom and let them decide what they want to do with their freedom. You, on the other hand, on the other side of me beating the case, tried to put them on a better path. Really, I try to send my clients
Yeah.
in your direction so that you can help them live pro-social lives for them, not
Yeah.
for anyone else, because firsthand the misery of actually being in jail. And as much as jail gets glorified, I'm the one that gets the phone call from the guy crying and doing his best not to sound like he's crying, saying, "Miss, you got to get me out of here, miss. You gotta call my people and get me out of here." Like, nobody wants to be in jail.
Right.
Even those who have been institutionalized to stay in jail don't actually want to be in jail. So, one, how does a case like this perpetuate that cycle? And two, how do we fix that? How do we get past it? Can we? Especially if the system is doing what it's designed to do.
Right.
And the Black community has no justice and no faith in the system doing any better for the community itself. How do you come back from that?
One of the things even myself am focusing on now is policies. I think some of the policies needs to be changes, and some policies need to be implemented. I think that even to get over this right now, we have to be at the table and have these policies that specifically address these type of behaviors, right? And what has been taking place. I myself, I am hoping that I will have that opportunity to be able to sit and speak one day, even to the judge itself.
Like on this case or the next time around? Because
No,
we know
on
there'll be a next case.
Yeah, there'll be a next time, but even on this case, because I would like to just have, a face-to-face conversation, even with the judge, to what was processing to your brain when you read all that and you look at all the case, the evidence and everything else. And one of the things when judges are sentences or cases, they always look at the community's best interest,. As they would say. So how do you feel this was the community's best interest? That would be my first question, right?
And the wider community, because this case obviously has an impact on the Black community, but this officer will one day be an officer again. And this isn't his first instance of excessive force. A year before he tackled Chadd Facey, he shot at a car that was fleeing from the police. And that was deemed to be excessive in the circumstances as well, a factor which was not considered in this case. And neither judge wanted to consider the impact that this person was having. Now, I understand that both cases are going in front of the police tribunal. SIU originally cleared Officer Au of the first shooting. They are now reopening that investigation in light of his conviction here on the assault. I mean, there's still a big question mark as to whether or not he will actually be on active duty ever again. But there's certainly nothing in either decision that's preventing him from doing so.
Yeah, we don't know yet. We just have to wait and see. But
Yes.
I mean, overall, right now, I'll say we're tired, right? We're tired. And it's definitely time that we have to be able to be at the table where we are as a collective to say, you know what? We clearly understand what you are addressing, and we clearly agree with you, and we give you 100% guarantee there will be changes coming forth.
What are those changes? What changes would you like to see that you think would help on a policy level? Like if someone said to you, Richard, you've seen this injustice system from all sides. What do we do to make it better? How do we fix this? What are your recommendations? What policies would you like to see implemented?
My first recommendation would be to have another body that oversees all these kind of situations. They have the SIU, yes.
Mhm.
But I mean a particular body that's looking at the community's best interest, but also looking at the overall picture, right? And that body is there solely to hold accountability to the police itself, right? That is very much needed. It's kind of an oversee. That's something that I think that would definitely.
And how would it differ from the SIU?
Well, it differs because that body of individual is somebody that's would be, I think, would be built from the community,
Okay.
right? So it's like how
So
they,
you want the police to stop policing the police.
right, exactly.
Essentially, is what you're saying. A separate oversight committee that
Right,
isn't the police looking after
right.
themselves. Yes. Okay.
When I look at it, you have to also look at the fact of when individuals are in that kind of sense of power and they um, overstep, you have to start giving them consequences. You have to start let everyone knows across the board. It
Right.
has to come down way above the chief and comes down on the chief and trickle down to everybody, below that. That you have consequences because you continue to, to send a message. You can do whatever you want. You don't need to obey the law. We're going to protect you, and that's what's happening, right? And that's what the community is seeing. Even yourself, when you're in court and you're dealing with cases with your client, you're dealing with the crown attorney and you're challenging the crown and the judge is listening to you challenging the crown, but you are making legitimate concern when it comes to your client and what the crown is saying. You know what I mean? For the best interest of your client.
Right.
Right. And it's the same thing. We have to have a body that's for the best interest of the community.
And would you see that sort of oversight happening through the judicial process or completely separate from the judicial process?
Completely separate from the judicial process.
Is there anything that you think can be done inside the justice system that would help the community heal and help alleviate some of the distrust, the rage, the disappointment?
At this time, I say no. Don't see anything. I think within the justice system, again, I would really like to have a group of individuals, even yourself, to at a round table to address all these and get some feedback from them and to build something from there of how we can move forward. This is a situation that's larger than me,
Right.
very much so, right? And it's not just about my voice alone. It's about an overall picture of the community, but not just different members from the community. Like I built Keep Six around having support from different individuals, right? Who believed in me, but it was about my mission and the changes I wanted to make. So it's the same thing. You have to be at the table to give your views to make these individuals understand. Because out of fairness, they don't understand what's really going on in the community. Everyone is looking is just book smart and within the system. Beyond that,
How are you helping the community to heal?
right now, one of the things right now is the mental health part of it. That's what we're trying to do. Coping is very important right now.
Yes.
That's the best I can do to prevent individuals from going down that other path and just outbursts. You have to be able to help them program their mind and deal them with the emotions and the mental trauma. It's a lot of trauma. I'll say, like you heard me, when I reach out to you, I was livid,
I know you were.
you know.
I know.
So, you know, for me, I have a vast majority of resources where I can turn to.
Yes.
I can pick up the phone and call you or other people, but a lot of people in the community don't have that, right? And that's where I try to step in and help them with the mental health and see how to get through it, work at it, right? It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, very difficult. And the average listener might not understand. But I always say to individuals, just, take off your slippers and, try to cross the other side of the road and open your eyes and your mind and just take it in from someone else's perspective.
Right.
Put on that next person's shoes. That mother who lost, her son, that family. You as a community member, as, African Canadian individuals, and you're seeing this take place and you lost your child. I always say, what would it like for you to lose your child? And there's no consequences.
And I think there is a disconnect for some people where they can't appreciate how the greater community feels about that. They don't understand the sense of community and and the impact that that has on the group as opposed to just, the immediate family members. For example, I think that's a huge sort of disconnect that I struggle to explain. I try to explain because I get the question, why are all these kids doing all these carjackings? Why are all of these kids doing home invasions? Why do we keep seeing it again and again in the news? And so trying to explain intergenerational trauma, trying to explain how certain policies impact an entire community and not just the individuals touched, I can only say so much to that. But that's the community you work with. That's your life's work.
Yeah.
And so talk to that person. Talk to that listener who's like, I don't get it. Why are you enraged as a community?
Well, you're enraged as a community because of the constant thing. This is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. This never started in 2025. This has been going on 400 years back. It's a consistent pattern. So you say to yourself, there's outrage, there's anger. You constantly say there's going to be changes. We're going to make this, this is very sad. We're very sad about this situation and, we need to do something. But what's been done? There's a lot of, as they would say in the system, there's a lot of lip service, right? But we don't see actions. And that's the reason for the outrage. That's the reason why that young man now who's out there and he's saying, well, I went to school with this guy, I played ball with him. I can't believe, I don't trust these, cops. I don't trust these people, they're angry. I'm going to do whatever I can, but I lost my friend. He didn't deserve this. That's what they're saying. That's what's happening. They're angry, right? So the only thing I can do right now is try to give it that support, that mental health support, and not let them go to the extreme of getting themselves into the system.
I see a lot of that. I see a lot of the notion that police hate them, the justice system hates them, and so they hate the police and they hate the justice system, and there's no respect for the entire system. There's no respect for policing, no respect for the justice system, and so there's no consideration.
Right.
The sad part for me is that the police will win that battle. The justice system will win that battle, and we've got lives lost on the other side of it. And what I love what you're doing is trying to disrupt that pattern, even if you can't change how someone feels about it, because you're not going to stop thinking that the justice system hates the community when this is the end result on a case like this.
Yeah, it's quite clear.
Yes.
There's no question about it. But right now, we have to focus on how we can heal to make changes and break that cycle. That's the important thing from my aspect. I don't think that it is something that's going to happen overnight. Do
you think it will happen? Do you think it can happen?
It can happen. It can.
Yes.
Definitely.
You still feel hopeful?
Yeah. I strongly...
underneath all the anger, because I know how angry you are. I know how hurt you were. I know you personally were enraged, not just on behalf of the community, but you as a person were enraged, and you still have hope.
Yeah. Remember, I work with a lot of lifers too,
I know.
right? And I guess for me, I get to voice my thing. So I get to the opportunity to sit at different government official, hear my voice and hear me. But I'm at the stage right now. How much more do you want to hear from me? How much more writing is there, right? I just give you what is it, a 2-page community impact. That took a lot of time. A lot of people's hand too, it went through too. It wasn't just me, myself, right? When are you going to really stop and listen? I just need to know that. That's all, right? Let's just keep it moving.
Right.
But let's come to some agreement, something that we can agree on, that we're going to see something change. I'm hoping, and you know what? I hope that I can actually even reach out to the judge and maybe even all of us get the opportunity to be here, or even the Crown.
Well, you've spoken to the Crown. Isn't it the Crown that contacted you initially to participate?
The initial Zoom meeting I had was with the 2 Crowns.
Yes.
And another person from the Attorney General office.
And did they ultimately send you the sentencing decision? Did they speak to you? Did they call you for a debriefing?
No.
They just sent you the decision and said, here you go.
And I replied back with my response.
Okay.
And I was honest. I just said basically, thank you for, allowing me to be a part of this, and I appreciate it. But I would like to say that I was really deeply hurt by this decision. It wasn't what the community expected,
Right.
and so forth, right?
And what did they say?
I haven't heard back anything.
You never heard back?
No,
They never responded?
no.
Okay. Have you had any communications with the police at all? Are they doing anything to reach out to the community and try to bridge some of the, mistrust and some of the fear, some of the anger?
Since this has happened,
Yes.
I have not had any interaction with either of the police force, either TPS or HEAL,
Okay.
regarding this matter and how they plan to do this. I just had to stop the gun violence concert, and Peel Police was one of the supported financing and sponsored it.
Okay.
But it was just about the gun violence in our community.
Right.
There was nothing about what has taken place. So I'm hoping to even have the opportunity to sit down, with the chief or the deputy chief. They have sat at the table and given me the opportunity to listen to me and hear me.
Right.
So, I'm hoping to have those conversations.
Well, I think what you do is truly, truly incredible. I hope that this situation does not dissuade you from continuing to provide community impact statements where they're required. I know that this was not the decision that you wanted, that the community wanted, that a lot of us in the justice system wanted to see.
Right.
It isn't. We have seen over and over and over again police not being held accountable. It's one of the most frustrating things is I get a client who pulls up a news article and says, "Why can't you accomplish for me what happened? Sure, I killed somebody, but it's really just an assault, isn't it? That I get probation for?" And it's, of course, as you know, no, it's unfortunately not. That's a different justice system.
Right. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like we said it. But and also keep in mind, you just brought that up. This is also going to be a case that they use for precedent.
I think that it was decided in a way that will make it very difficult for us to use this as a precedent for others.
Well, I would say I would like to be in the courtroom when you decide to do that and hear it.
Listen, I'm no stranger to controversy, and there's no question that I would love to be able to do that. But it happens few and far between. I remember when the Sami Yatim decision came out, and an officer who shot and killed a young man on a subway car was convicted of attempted murder when he was killed. And all of us sort of scratched our head and were like, how? How does that work? How do you do the mental gymnastics to achieve a result like that? And it hasn't happened since. Although on occasion we get situations in which, there's a volley of gunfire and you're not sure which caused the death and you try to argue. I don't think it's been done successfully since. I think that case is an anomaly, and I suspect that this case is going to be an anomaly as well. And I think you're right. I think that it's an anomaly because of the involvement of police officers in this active decision to do everything we can to not taint them.
Yeah, and that's always their big concern, right?
Yes.
You probably will not hear about it when it comes to them, but I hope the family can heal. I know they'll never be able to heal, but even now it opens a door for them for a lawsuit, right?
Yes.
So they get some kind of justification from that.
None of which will ever bring back their loved one, and none of which will ever cause them to have faith, I would imagine, in the system.
Yeah, and even the community itself, they've lost their faith, and how did you, build that back also, right?
Well,
have to think about that.
With your help, with the help of other incredible community members, there are a lot of leaders like yourself who are trying to bridge those gaps and try to help build trust and try to help move forward because, like you said, we need police in some regards, but we need the system to be doing a better job of building people up and helping to heal instead of causing further hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just hope for the best. That's all we can do, right? And continue to work. And you continue to do the work you do, right?
Listen, we all do our parts.
That's all we have to do, play our parts.
Richard, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know this was a difficult case for you. I know this was such a meaningful case for you. You and I spoke from the time that it happened until you got the decision. And when we got the decision, I wanted to have you on to express what this has done to the community, what you're doing for the community, and how we build back up from this. So I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really do appreciate it. And folks, always follow us on social media, Keep6 org, or you can reach us at 1-800-640-3075. Keep 6 in the 6.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.